Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. And I think most of you are longtime listeners, and so you know that I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And if you're new to the podcast, I am happy to meet you. So I do have an interesting job that I love. I get to encourage you. I get to help you remember who you are. And I have the blessing of getting to help you connect with the angels. So I have different offerings, including one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and an ever-changing roster of classes. And you can learn more at my website, illuminatingsouls.com. And I also post regularly on my Facebook page. For now, the angels and I are here to help bring soothing, comforting companionship to you as you drift off to sleep or as you go about your day. I do have to just quickly give a little editorial here. I don't know what is happening. I live about a mile from a freeway, and usually I can't hear it, but this morning it's loud, so the atmosphere must be a little bit different this morning. So if you hear traffic, I am so sorry. Just set a mental note to receive it as ambient noise that will be sleep-inducing, like, you know how babies fall asleep in a moving car. Let's affirm this is how it will metabolize for us all in this episode. So this podcast is an unlikely mashup of two of my favorite forms of self-care, connecting with the angels and listening to sleep podcasts. Just last night, I listened to my own sleep podcast, and it helped me fall asleep. I listened to the episode that was posted before this one, and I didn't even make it to the story part. I don't even remember hearing it. And that's what I love about sleep podcasts. They provide for a really gentle invitation to shift consciousness so that our waking mind and beingness can make that transformation into that beautiful, expansive place of sleep. So if you are using this to sleep, I invite you to get really cozy in whatever way works best for you. I love lots of pillows, and it's chilly here right now, so I have lots of blankets on the bed. I use a body pillow and a couple of other pillows, and I have a big comforter. And I think right now we have 3 other blankets on the bed. So it's like going into a cocoon of warmth. It's very snuggly, and I love it. And so wherever you are right now, whether you are in your car commuting to work or running errands, or you're in bed, getting ready to drift off, The angels and I are sending you waves of love. As I record this, it is morning here, and I think it's going to be an absolutely beautiful day. And there is a sense of hopefulness that I feel, not just for me, but in the collective. And there's a heaviness. It's incongruent. We can experience many things at once. So we can feel hopeful and we can feel the heaviness. We can feel lost in some aspects and deeply on purpose in others. So if you are in one of those mixed up, mashed up places, I want to remind you that we are multidimensional beings. And even though we are on a linear timeline here on the earth plane, our beingness experiences and co-creates multidimensionally. So if your day-to-day life feels a bit hectic or challenging, there may likely be a greater part of you that is already dancing into the timeline of the days and weeks and months to come, and that part of you is feeling inspired. So we are very complicated beings. We can feel many things at the same time. It's like we're snow globes, when the snow globe gets shaken up and the snowflakes are flitting about everywhere. Life feels like that right now. So there's parts of life where I am profoundly inspired and excited. And there's other parts of life that feel exhausting. I feel all of it right now. I think that's one of the cool things about feeling life through the heart chakra is we get to feel all of it. And I'm so glad that I am someone who gets to feel. I think it's a lovely way to engage with life. And so if you are someone who feels deeply, I honor you. And it's okay. Each of us is a beautiful, unique instrument of the divine. Each of us experiences the world through our unique consciousness. So I invite you to take a big, deep breath in and breathe in the love that the angels are shining upon you. And as I say that, can you hear the birds? I don't know if you can or not. They are singing their song. So my beautiful friend, here is to singing your song in a way that delights your spirit. And if you are someone who has all the feels, if you feel all of it, you're in good company. It is such a beautiful thing that we get to be together right now, that we get to receive this angelic love together, this broadcast that is coming from the heavens. It is being calibrated just for you, that the angels know what is in your heart and they know what is happening in your life right now. And they are meeting you where you are. And they are also helping to lift you up so that you can breathe a little bit easier. And so I'm going to call the angels in. They're already here, but as you know, I love the ritual of sharing them with you. So let's take some nice deep breaths in together, allowing the light of the heavens to meet you where you are. And beautiful angels on high, we invite you to join us here. We ask that you bring your energy closer to where we are on the earth plane. And I ask that you bring each of our beloveds waves of golden healing light. I ask that you help clear from us anything that is not ours, anything that no longer serves. Please help us to release anything that is a burden that we need not carry, just to clear this through the light of the divine. And dear ones, just take some beautiful, nice, big, deep breaths in and imagine that we are soaring into the beautiful heavenly light. Think of this as an energetic car wash. That's always what I imagine, sort of all the vibrational gunk getting washed off in this beautiful light. And this light helps you deepen in your connection and your awareness to your authentic self, the brightness of your true spirit. And just relax and breathe. And as we are doing this in my mind's eye, I see the angels with us now. They are bringing forward profound compassion and understanding and support of your journey. You know, the thing about angels is they do not judge us. They don't get annoyed or frustrated with us. They have deep empathy for what it means to be in this human experience. So breathe and allow your body to get comfortable in whatever way is available to you. And the angels are bringing a beautiful sphere of pink and golden light to you. The sphere is large enough to embody you and those you love. It is a sphere that is inclusive, and there's plenty of room in it. So if you want to keep the sphere smaller so it is just for you right now, that's okay. If you want to stretch it over your entire home, you can do that as well. But inside this sphere is divine love, calibrated in service to your highest and best good. This light is here to help cleanse you, to help you release anything you need not carry. It is bringing healing light to all that you are. So allow this healing light to flow to every cell in your body, to your heart, and to your consciousness. And we also send this light throughout the timeline of your life. We can send it to past aspects of you, and we can also send it to future experiences. This light is not bound by time or space. So you just breathe. And if you have any prayers or intentions that you wish to bring to the angels and to God, we invite you to bring them into your heart now. And just let the angels and God hear your prayers. You can ask them for help. You can let them know what your intentions are, however you want to use this time. They are here with you now. And this beautiful energy, it feels like it is blossoming open. I love the concept of blossoming open. It is a reminder that there is a life force, a divine wisdom that innately knows how to blossom, right? You don't have to teach a tomato seed how to become the tomato plant. Its essence knows. It just needs to be nurtured. And that is the same with us. There is this divine wisdom within us that blossoms open when we are nurtured, when we are inspired. And so just allow this light to flow to you to help activate your divine essence, so that in the days and weeks and months to come, you will experience your own expression of blossoming open. Perhaps your creative spirit will blossom open. Or perhaps your social circle will widen. This can show up in so many different ways, but just feel the invitation of it. Feel the light that is streaming to you now. And take another nice deep breath in. And you are being held in the heart of your angels. And so you go ahead and rest and drift off and allow yourself to receive the soothing, comforting, divine love that is here for you right now. And while you rest, I'm going to tell you a story. So for this episode, I am going to dive into a theme I have been contemplating for a few months now, that I am calling the Plus Size Diaries. As most of you who listen know, I have spent my life in a plus-sized body, a large-sized body, if you will, and it has just given me so much perspective. I have so many stories to share with you about this. And so I've been trying to figure out how to wrap these up in a way that won't be really sad, because I no longer hold for any of this with sadness or grief. I'm at a really good place in my life right now. I have deep empathy and acceptance for all the parts of the journey. I think there's some stuff that's really funny and absurd. I have been so enjoying sharing with you the quote dietetic recipes of the 60s and 70s and just how crazy those experiences were. And so my first thought for this episode was I was going to read from some of those old recipe books again, which I think I'm still going to do. But before we get there, I thought maybe I would share with you a little bit about where I am now, especially if part of my journey can be helpful for anyone else. And a lot of you who listen, we know each other personally, so you know a lot about this part of my journey. So as I've shared with you before, I went to Weight Watchers for the first time when I was 7 years old. So I have been on this journey a really long time. And I grew up in an era where it was thought to be a personal failure. That weight had to do with overeating and not moving enough. And all of that was a personal choice. And certainly I embodied those beliefs until about 5 years ago. So that's a long time to be embodying self-blame and shame and judgment, wondering what's wrong with me, that I can't fix this thing that everyone is telling me I should be able to fix. And I think right now we are in such a fascinating time when it comes to the science of obesity. We're in the early stages of it, but it is now believed to be a physical imbalance having to do with insulin resistance and some other things. And this is not a scientific conversation, but I'm very hopeful that they will come to understand this in a way that can be profoundly helpful and healing to so many people who have suffered for a very long time. And I guess in terms of the Plus Size Diaries, the parts of my journey that I want to share with you in this episode is one of the first times I had this profound awareness that this likely wasn't my fault. And it was back in the 90s. I don't know how many of you remember when Phen-Fen was a thing. Phen-Fen was a cocktail of 2 different drugs. And that when taken together, they seemingly inhibited the appetite. Now the thing is that appetite is a term that is often misunderstood. Appetite is not just, I'm a little hungry. I should probably have a sandwich. But appetite is a drive. It is an urge. It has to do with satiety. It is a primal drive to consume food. So back in the late 90s, Phen-Fen was a thing, and social media didn't exist yet, but we had AOL and there were different chat rooms. And so I started researching Phen-Fen. I was desperate for an answer and something that would help me have this freedom. And I remember reading through some forums, and this one woman had posted about her experience with Phen-Fen in this way. She said that her favorite candy bar was a York peppermint patty, and she could never say no to a York peppermint patty. And she went on to Phen-Fen, and she said that this York peppermint patty has been sitting in my desk drawer for 2 months now, and I don't care. And that struck me. because I had been on many, many diets before, and I could tell you every single thing I had not eaten, that I could muster up the willpower for a while, but I could give you my whole list of things I had not consumed. So this idea that something could change in me and I wouldn't care sounded like a miracle. So I found a doctor, and like millions of other people, I went on to Phen-Fen. And within an hour or two of my first dose, I didn't care about food anymore. It wasn't about hunger, right? Do I need to eat a meal now or not? I mean that part of me that was always scanning my peripheral vision for opportunities to find delicious food was quiet. It was a quiet within my consciousness I had never before experienced. It was a miracle. It was the kind of thing where I would have to remind myself to eat. If I had a sandwich, I might only eat half of it because I would feel done. It was this innate shift in how I experienced my beingness. So in some ways it was a real miracle for me, but as you likely know, it turned out to be unhealthy. And I was fine, so I didn't have any issues, but in keeping with the metaphysical bent of our adventure together, I will share this story with you. I had been on it maybe for 6 weeks. I think I had lost about 15 pounds. I don't remember the exact time frame, but it hadn't been a long period of time. And there was a metaphysical expo. And Monte Farber, who is an astrologer and also created, I wish I remembered the name of his tarot deck. Hold on, I'll go look it up. Okay, I'm back. I'm glad I paused and looked it up. So Monte Farber and his wife, artist Amy Zerner, created the Enchanted Tarot deck and many other super cool things. I'm actually going to have to go back and look at their website after I record this episode. I haven't looked at their work in a long time. He has classes and they have beautiful decks and books. And so their website is theenchantedworld.net. So if you look up Monte, Monte, and Farber, Farber. Okay, so back to the story. So we're at this metaphysical expo, and Monte is there selling his decks and also demoing a software that he had that would do tarot readings. And so I was all excited about my Phen-Fen journey. And so, he was offering to do these readings with the software. And so I said, okay, I want to ask about Phen-Fen. How, is it going to work for me? Is this a good thing? And so the software does its spin and the tarot cards are revealed. And I don't remember what they were. But Monte looks at the screen and he looks at the spread and then he looks at me and his eyes get really big and he says, "Get off them now. Don't take any more." And I could feel the energy. And I was like, uh-oh. And so I didn't take them ever again. I stopped, and it was about, 2 months later that all of these news reports started showing up about people who were in heart failure or they had heart valve problems because of the Phen-Fen. So I don't know what would have happened to me had I stayed on them, but Monte, thank you. Thank you for that reading and that moment. And thank you, angels, for bringing me there so I would know to go off of him. But the miracle of the Phen-Fen that stays with me to this day is that it shifted something in how my brain worked. And I thought, oh, this is what it's like to be normal. This is what it's like. That's so interesting. And so that stayed with me ever since. And I have many other experiences to share with you, but the one I want to share with you next is to sort of bring you up to speed with where I live in my consciousness and in my body now, which is in July of 2020. I had to think for a second. July of 2020, I had bariatric surgery in the form of a vertical sleeve gastrectomy. So I've had bariatric surgery. And actually, it's my second bariatric surgery. I had a lap band back in 2004. That was a miracle, but I had a complication and it had to come out in 2008. So all of those can be their own story times at some point, but I want to sort of bring you up to speed with where I am now, and it'll give you just a sense on why I hold in consciousness the way I do these days. So I was very blessed to be able to have this surgery. Not everybody gets to have this opportunity, and it doesn't work for everyone. And I was very fortunate. I had been eligible for this surgery for many, many years, but I hadn't been ready. And there's probably a whole other conversation about that, of why I hadn't been ready and why I hadn't had the surgery sooner. But I'll suffice it to say that for me, at least, having had one surgery that worked and then didn't, I really was thinking deeply about if I was ready to have a second one. But the second one, I think, was really necessary for me. I was at a very, very high weight that was pretty scary for me. So this surgery wasn't about being thin, and I'm not thin today. I don't identify as a thin person, whatever that means. I still am well into plus sizes. I don't think anyone would want to sit next to me in the middle seat on a plane. I still consider myself a big girl, but I definitely am in a better place than I was before the surgery. The thing about the sleeve, as we call it, the sleeve, the vertical sleeve, the VSG form of weight loss surgery, and I'm not going to get into too many details because you're trying to sleep, but a part of the stomach is removed. We don't actually need all of our, well, I don't know that that's true, but I am living just fine without a part of my stomach. So the surgery is in part restrictive. But here's the interesting thing, and I think this is why I chose to move forward with the surgery. It also seems to reset the hormonal, or whatever that is, whatever the ghrelin and leptin and all the things I don't know about. For some people, this surgery helps to shift the way the brain, or whatever that part of us is, functions when it comes to food. And I remembered my experience with Phen-Fen. And I thought, wow, if this surgery could help me come into a place of deep peace within myself, it's going to be worth it. So I decided to move forward with the surgery. From a health perspective, it was the right decision for me. And so now I am over 2.5 years in. And what is life like from this place? Well, I did have a little bit of regain, which is expected with these surgeries, right? Typically people go down to a low weight and then there's a little bit of regain as the body readjusts and we're able to eat a little more. And that has happened for me. Not too freaked out about it. But my relationship to food is different than it was prior to the surgery. I am still food driven, as you witness in this podcast, because I talk about food all the time. I still love food. I am entertained by it. I am soothed by it. So that part of me has not fallen asleep like it did on Phen-Fen. But I will say that the body that I'm in now, the drive has diminished greatly. I would say at least by 50%. I no longer eat sugar, and I think that's a huge part of this for me. I am a sugar addict. I don't say that lightly. I either can have no sugar or I can have all the sugar. The way my mind works is it's a slippery slope. There are foods I can have and there's foods I can't have. But once I have one of those foods that I can't have, I have it in my life. I can have it all the time. That's just how my mind works. That might not work for you, but it's what works for me. So I don't eat pastries. I don't eat candy. I don't eat. I'm really driven by sweet food. And so I just don't eat it because I feel like if I have like one piece of candy, I will eat all the candy. I have no off switch, but once I've gotten the switch off, then I can navigate life. So I eat pretty healthy these days. I still absolutely love food. I can't eat in enormous quantities. So if we were to go out to a restaurant together and they bring me a plate of food, I would likely only eat part of it and take the other part home. I don't really eat in restaurants anymore, though, because of the pandemic, so that's probably a terrible metaphor. I eat big salads, so I can still have vegetables, and I eat some fruit. I can't eat a lot of it, but I eat fruit. I can have bread, toasted usually. And I feel really healthy in my body. I feel really good with where I am now. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to have this surgery. And the thing that makes me so hopeful is all of the pharmaceutical developments that are happening now with things like Mounjaro and Wegovy, that they're understanding more than they ever have before about this thing called obesity that so many of us experience. You know, I follow a lot of plus-sized content creators and obesity doctors on TikTok. And there's that conversation that always seems to happen that if somebody is, profoundly overweight and they go to the doctor because they have an earache or they hurt their wrist, somehow it always gets looped back to their weight. And I promise you, if you are someone who is overweight or you know somebody who is, I promise you that we have thought about eating less and moving more. Just so you know, that piece of wisdom has never, ever eluded us. And it is not the Holy Grail. If it was, there'd be a whole lot less of us in this conversation. So I'm really hopeful that in the next 20 years or so, there will be a much deeper understanding and effective treatments for people who have a difficult time with weight regulation. I'm fortunate that I found one of my tools that is working for me, and I'm really grateful. And so that's where I am now. I have less of a stomach than I did a few years ago. I have no side effects. I feel incredibly healthy. I walk every single day. So back to the all or nothing expression of Laurel. Probably in 2015, my husband got really enthusiastic about buying us exercise equipment. And I don't know if I've ever shared this here before, but the rule of my marriage is my husband is always right. And I don't mean this because it's a patriarchal marriage and he's the man. I mean because my husband is profoundly intuitive and clairvoyant and just doesn't know it. So 2015 or whenever that was, he's like, we should go buy a treadmill. I was like, I don't want a treadmill. They're too expensive. And we went, of course, then to a really good exercise store. This just wasn't a Costco version of a treadmill. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I meant we went to like a real store that sells all kinds of exercise equipment. That's all they do. And so we picked out a treadmill, and then we also decided to get an elliptical. And I think all in, we must have spent $5,000, which is a lot of money. I don't know, to me, it's a lot of money for exercise equipment. And the truth is, it just sat there. We rarely used it. And so, I was just so crabby about it. I'm like, this was stupid. We shouldn't have spent this money. I'm still paying it off, and maybe we should just sell it and get the room back because we live in a really small house. So one of the rooms is my office, another room is our bedroom, and the other room has the exercise equipment. So we're squished in here. And I realize this house is probably very large compared to how many people live. So I'm not ungrateful for what we have. So I'm being crabby. I am being unsupportive about our exercise equipment purchase. And then you know what happened? This thing called COVID, where we weren't going to go to a gym because I had been going to a gym for a little while and I would use their treadmill. And then I had bariatric surgery at the beginning of this pandemic. And after surgery, you have to walk quite a bit because it helps the body and the lungs clear the anesthesia. So the day after surgery, I came home and I got on the treadmill. Now, I wasn't going very far or very fast. Maybe 3 or 4 minutes, really slowly, because that was all I could do just coming out of surgery. But I want you to know that since that day of getting on the treadmill, the day after surgery, I have not missed a single solitary day on the treadmill. If we travel, I will do my walking in other ways. So if I'm not physically home and can't get to the treadmill, I meet my walking goals in other ways. But when I'm home, every single day I get on the treadmill, my agreement with myself is it's for a minimum of 7 minutes. Now, 7 minutes is not life-changing. I'm not looking for accolades like I just finished a triathlon. But the part of me that is the all or nothing girl, this is my agreement. Every single day, I get on that treadmill for 7 minutes or more. And that is working for me. So my husband, who I was very crabby with for buying this very expensive exercise equipment that we clearly did not need, is now the hero of my story because he did not know what was coming. He only knew that we needed to buy this, even though it sat there collecting dust for several years. Once the pandemic hit, I was like, this is genius. I'm so happy you had us buy this exercise equipment. And now I use it every single day. Every day. I'm on that treadmill. Totally worth the investment. Isn't that crazy? My poor husband has to put up with me always resisting his genius when I don't know that it's genius. So I get on the treadmill every day. I don't want to make it sound like I run for miles. I don't. Some days it's just those 7 minutes and I'm done. But that part of me that is all or nothing, I am learning to work with it. I don't eat sugar. Can't have it. Won't have it. Because if I do, I get to have all of it. I get on the treadmill every single day because if I miss a day, I can miss all the days. Welcome to my life. It's the same thing with this podcast. I love doing this podcast, but I set a schedule up for myself. I don't know how many of you are even aware of the schedule. Our listenership is relatively small, but in case you don't know, I publish a new episode every Sunday and every Wednesday. I haven't missed a day yet because if I miss one day, I might miss 5 weeks. So, welcome to my world, the all or nothing girl. It's all or it's nothing. I can have all of it or I can have none of it. So that's this edition of the Plus Size Diaries, and I have many, many more installments for you to share with you. But I thought maybe we could wax poetic about some of these interesting dietetic recipes that were a part of my childhood and adolescence. I already shared with you about my issues with cottage cheese toast that was supposed to be a cheese Danish. If you like cottage cheese and you like toast and you like cottage cheese toast, you have my blessing. But do not give me cottage cheese toast and tell me it is a cheese Danish, because I have had cheese Danish before. And I know the difference. So, I went onto eBay and I bought this super cool little recipe booklet that I'm going to share with you. It is from Faygo Diet Soda, or Diet Pop as it's called in the Midwest. I grew up with soda being called pop because I'm from the Chicago area. And when I moved to Los Angeles and people were calling it soda, I was very confused. So 2 of the big heroes of dietetic recipes, especially if we're talking about the sweet profile, which was really all I cared about. Because let's be real, if you are cooking vegetables or protein, it doesn't require sugar. Right? You can make those delicious without needing to make them dietetic, right? If you're going to roast a sweet potato, it's fine just the way it is. But if I want chocolate pudding, I'm going to need some sort of artistic concoction to bring that into my life. So diet soda was one of the heroes of many of these recipes, and the other was gelatin, flavored or unflavored, always sugar-free. So Faygo is a pop manufacturer that hails from Detroit, Michigan. And I believe this might be from the 60s, maybe the 70s, and people submitted these recipes. And I can't help but think of these women who were, pouring a half a can of pop with some strawberries and, a little bit of milk powder to try to make something. So God bless them. They are certainly the heroines of this story as well. Let me share with you about the sugar-free flavors of pop that they have. The first is red pop. I did look these up on Wikipedia. My understanding is this was their strawberry flavored soda. But as a child, I loved red pop. Who didn't like a good red pop, right? Frosh, which sounds like it was citrus, so maybe lemon lime, I don't know for sure. Passion fruit punch, sounds delicious. Root beer. Something called rock and rye, which my understanding is like a cream soda, which I like cream soda, so I would have had that one. Pineapple orange, which sounds delicious. Black raspberry. Cream. I don't know the difference between cream and rock and rye. Apparently back in the day, like the early 1900s, rock and rye had more savory flavor. I don't even know if it's savory. Whatever. It was a different concoction than it is now, but apparently now it's like a cream soda with a little bit of a fruit flavor. They have orange. I always loved orange soda. Cola, strawberry, cherry, grape. Oh my God, I loved grape soda. Lemon lime, ginger ale, chocolate cream, which I will come back to in a moment, wild strawberry, and cherry berry. Okay, one of the things that was one of the great frauds in my childhood was this idea of chocolate soda. Listen, I firmly believe that one of the ways God helped convince me to incarnate into humanity at this time and place, into this lifetime as Laurel, was they said, well, there will be cake and chocolate. And I said, okay, I'll go. Put me in, coach. So I have and have always had this deep, reverent love affair for chocolate. So when diet chocolate soda became a thing, as did sugar-free chocolate gum, I would drink this stuff or chew the gum in hopes that that part of me that loved chocolate would somehow be sated. And I never was. It was a deep disappointment. I was snookered by the promise, by fake chocolate flavoring. So I know we're kind of late in the episode here, so we will come back to this Faygo recipe book. It'll probably have its own episode, or maybe I'll combine this recipe book with some others that I have that are equally as delightful, but I will share a few recipes with you. This first one I think is really interesting for a couple of reasons. This is called $1 Million French dressing. So, as I recall back in the day, so again, late 60s, early 70s, we didn't necessarily have access to the kind of fat-free, low-fat dressings, salad dressings that we have now. And I remember salad dressing as being this really suspect thing that we had to be careful of. And they taught us in Weight Watchers that if you ordered dressing, you never ever poured it on the salad directly, because that would put too many calories and fat into your salad. So instead what you did is you dipped your fork in the dressing and then you took a bite of salad with the fork. So you would dip into the little container of dressing on the side, always, always on the side. You would dip the fork in the dressing, and then you would take the fork and spear part of the salad, and then you would take a bite. So you would get a little bit of the dressing on the lettuce rather than drowning the salad in dressing. I will have you know I have done this my entire adult life. If any of you have ever eaten in a restaurant with me that involves salad, you will see me using this technique, not even realizing that this is what had happened to me in my life. I will have you know that now when I eat my ginormous salad, which is really not that big, just so you know, I have had bariatric surgery after all, but when I eat my salad, I actually pour the dressing on the salad. I'm like, I can't eat too much of it. I'm having real dressing, and it's going to cover every morsel of my salad. It is one of my personal acts of rebellion against the history of my relationship with salad dressing. But I digress. If you would like to make a super groovy, dietetic salad dressing using soda, let me share this with you. There's 1 cup of diet Faygo ginger ale. So they're introducing the ginger flavor and the sweetness from the soda. 1 envelope of unflavored gelatin. See, here are our 2 heroes. Diet pop and gelatin. 2/3 of a cup of white vinegar. Artificial sweetener to equal a 1/2 cup of sugar. So whether that would be saccharin in the day or sweet and low or one of those things that you squeeze out of a dropper. 1/2 cup of ketchup. Now, again, being a good Weight Watcher lifetime dieter, I'm surprised they use ketchup because it involves sugar. But that's okay. We're going to keep going. 1 teaspoon of paprika. Everything's better with paprika. 1.5 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Everything's better with Worcestershire sauce too. 1 teaspoon of salt. The juice of 1 fresh lemon. A 1/4 cup of grated sweet onion. And 1.5 garlic cloves finely minced. So pour Diet Faygo ginger ale into the blender and sprinkle with unflavored gelatin. Add vinegar, sweetener, ketchup, paprika, Worcestershire sauce, salt, and lemon juice. Blend at high speed until thoroughly mixed. Place onion and garlic in glass jar. Add dressing, shake well, and refrigerate. Let dressing stand at least 24 hours before using. It makes 2.5 cups. Note, dressing will thicken in refrigerator, but thin out at room temperature. Use thickened dressing on seafoods and vegetables, thinner dressing for salad. And this is from Mrs. Melbea Ann Heilman of North Muskegon, Michigan. Okay, and this is the first prize winner in the beverage category, low-calorie cola coffee shake. So I will say, as a child, I was a fan of anything that was trying to be a milkshake, because of course I wanted a real milkshake, but rarely got to have them. So my mother would spin something up in the blender that involved ice cubes, usually, and maybe some instant Sanka, which for those of you who remember was decaffeinated coffee. So let's see what's going to come into our low-calorie cola coffee shake. So 1 quart or 32 ounces of Diet Faygo Cola, 3 Diet Faygo Cola ice cubes. Okay, so we're going to make ice out of Faygo. All right, so we would have to do that ahead of time. And people are doing this all the time now with coffee, yes? Have you been on ice TikTok where people make lots of different kinds of ice in different shapes and flavors? They have a whole freezer drawer in this multi-level refrigerator and freezer for different kinds of ice. So now this is very fashionable. We are making flavored ice. So 3 Diet Faygo Cola ice cubes, 1/3 of a cup of instant non-fat dry milk powder, 1/2 a teaspoon of instant coffee powder. In our house, that would be Senka. I don't know why I'm remembering that now. My parents drank Senka. 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 2 teaspoons of artificial sweetener. So fill your ice cube tray with Diet Faygo Cola and freeze solid. Place 3/4 cup of chilled Diet Cola in the blender. Add 3 frozen cola cubes, non-fat dry milk, coffee powder, vanilla, and sweetener. Blend at high speed about 1.5 minutes or until mixture thickens. Pour over additional cola cubes in a tall glass and serve immediately. This is from, I'm going to try and say her name and do it justice, Mrs. Margaretha, beautiful name, Mrs. Margaretha Stramecki. And she's at River Rouge, Michigan. Margaretha, what a beautiful name that is. So that is the first prize winner, the low-calorie cola coffee shake. I'm sure I had some variation of that, but I have no recollection of ever making soda-flavored ice cubes. But who knows? And so, my friends, this completes our first installment in the Plus Size Diaries. I have no idea when I'll do another or what we'll talk about. But thank you for letting me share this part of my story with you, and perhaps it will resonate with you, or maybe there's another area of your life where change has been elusive. And if that's the case, please, oh please, have deep compassion for yourself and your journey. Life is never as simple as it's made out to be in the narratives we are fed in magazines and social media. We're complicated beings, and there's still so much we don't understand about how we function. So love yourself well. And if it's hard to love yourself, let your angels love you. Outsource self-love to the angels. And I guess then it's not really self-love, but just receive the love that is here for you. You are awesome, and you are precious, and you are beautifully imperfect, just like every other person on the planet. And you are a miracle, and this world is better because you are here. So, my beautiful friend, you rest well. And if you need some more companionship, there are 129 other episodes in the archive that you can listen to. So we'll be together again soon. Thank you so much. I love you, and I wish you the sweetest of dreams.